Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. Today I want to talk about truth. I want to talk about truth because we all understand, those of us in tune with what's happening through the mainstream media and through this narrative that is being pitched by the Obama administration to the American people, and is exactly why the only logical outcome as they play this chess game for global domination and world power, the only logical outcome in the near term, not just in the long term put out and pushed out into the future, is some kind of sizable attack to threaten the American people once again. Now, with the NSA leak and the Edward Snowden whistleblower testimony that has now brought it into the public eye that you're being wiretapped, that this administration is no different than George W. Bush, that they've been selling you lies, that they've been, through anti-constitutional measures, violating your freedom and liberty here in the United States, violating and stealing your data. The only way that this can be spun is through an act of terror. And I have noticed, in fact, I have Storm Clouds Gathering coming on at 1 o'clock for a live Google Hangout. I have noticed that those of us following the narrative all see how the puzzle fits in the not too distant future. He did a report, said the next terrorist attack, and it goes through what's going to happen, or how that will be portrayed to the people, how that will be pitched to the masses. And it is very much the case. It is very much the reality of what we are dealing with an authoritarian government that has now overreached its bounds, overreached its power, and meddled in the affairs of a constitutional republic. The only way that this could be positioned is through rhetoric and through fear, pitched by the mainstream media, through the mainstream media as a guide to the people, through the president, and through these officials. It's exactly how they got us engaged in war with Iraq. It's exactly how President Barack Obama justified an invasion of Libya, soon to be Syria. You know, sell the emotional card. Make it about humanitarian causes. Weapons of mass destruction in George Bush's case. And in the case of Bashar al-Assad, a humanitarian murder spree, an accused spree by the Assad regime, giving the United States reason for their own invasion so that they can go and kill and murder innocent Syrians. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, how much further are we going to allow our government to overstep their bounds, overstep their reach into our lives? You know, many Americans, they don't want to believe the cold hard facts. They don't want to believe the reality that the government, in order to maintain control, is murdering people actively on a daily basis. Not just overseas, but here in the United States. Independent journalists, people like Andrew Breitbart, Michael Hastings, people that threaten the state, people like Edward Snowden, people that threaten criminal politicians, people like Andrew Breitbart, somehow end up disappeared in this country. Those technological wizards, people like Barnaby Jack, die. They leave the earth and they no longer can influence the narrative. How much more are we going to take? How much more are we going to allow this government overstep its bounds? And you see, the only way that they can pitch this, spin this, cultivate this mass intrusion into our lives, this raping of a constitutional republic, this raping and violation of your civil liberties, is through an act of terror, is through war, and is through fear propaganda. Now, we saw this, I did a report yesterday. We saw this over the weekend with Hannah Anderson, a beautiful blonde, blue-eyed girl, tragically abducted by her captor, and we saw how the mainstream media not only sexualized her in a perverse, disgusting way, with the media portrayal of the images of a 16-year-old girl, but they used it as justification and as a healthy reminder for the people that this is why we need a police state. This is why we need the rogue warrior cop. This is why we need a gross militarization of the United States, of local law enforcement, of your police department. These rogue warriors that break into your homes via flashbang like Adam Kokesh. This is what they're trying desperately to convince to the American people and to present to the American people as reason and just cause for these gross atrocities and the massive surveillance state that we now currently live. And it is a tragedy, my friends. It is a tragedy. Because this is not what America is supposed to be about. We fought off redcoats so that we could have the very little freedom that we have today. We fought off taxation without representation so we could have the very little freedom that we have today. War after war, bloodshed after bloodshed, so we could have this. A totalitarian police state akin to what we saw with the rise of Nazi Germany and with Adolf Hitler. You know, that example is used quite frequently, and a lot of the times people don't like it, but people turned a blind eye to Hitler. They didn't want to face the fire. They did not want to meet the reality. The same thing is happening here in the United States. Not only are people being killed, but you're being sold a lie as justification for a massive, massive surveillance state and a violation of your liberty. How much more are you going to take? How much more are you going to allow them to invade your privacy, your rights, while turning the other cheek, while turning a blind eye to reality? I suggest you wake up to the truth, my friends. I suggest you wake up to the reality. And I suggest you stand up for freedom, for liberty, for truth, for justice. And all those good people, men and women, who have died for the very little freedom you still have left. I'm Christopher Green. You've been watching AMTV Alternative Media Television, hard-hitting and in your face. Get this video out everywhere. And please support our sponsor. Donate $5 or more a month to the alternative media. Peace.